scientist on cancer. And so she used to go back and forth from home, and Dr. Sat talked about sleep and working all the time. Sometimes she used to work during the day, come home for dinner, because we only lived about a mile away from Columbia University uptown campus, and then she would go back to the lab. She would come home and go to sleep, and sometimes she used to have to go to the lab at 3 o'clock in the morning in order to run tests. And then after 9 months being in the lab, and she was co-authored several publications, so she's listed in some of the publications that were authored by these MDs. She then went to medical school, and went to medical school at Case Western Reserve University Medical School. And she went, her and her boyfriend were both accepted into this program to recruit minorities into medical school. And that program was at Case Western Reserve University. And now she's an MD, and he's an MD. And what type of MD is he? He's a neurosurgeon. And, you know, his family, he grew up in a foster home situation up in Ulster County. So I tell you, no matter how rich or how poor you may be, no matter what your circumstances are, if you are determined and if you work hard, you can be successful. You can be whatever you want to be. Now, I ask you a question, and I want you to truly think about this. How many of you in 2007 ever thought that Barack Hussein Obama would be the President of the United States? Raise your hand. Back then. Tell the truth. Okay? Put your hands down. And let me just tell you the story about him. In 2007 or 2008, I was at a debate up in Upper West Side at a Democratic club. And after the Democratic debate was shown on TV, and I got up and I spoke and I said, listen, I truly believe that Barack Obama is ready to be the President of the United States of America. I do not believe that the United States of America is ready to elect a black man president. And you know one thing? Who was wrong? Thank you. So one thing I tell that story because, you know, no one knows everything. With the knowledge you have is based on your life experience, the education, and all of the things you've experienced in life. But you know one thing? The people of our country proved me wrong, and millions of other people wrong too. Because I tell you, there were many people that I know that thought the same thought that I thought. But you know, some people ask me as a legislator, and I chair the Education Committee on the City Council of New York. I've been chairing for 6 years, and I've been on the Education Committee for 11 years. Said, you know, what do you think your legacy is going to be whenever your career ends as an elected public official? Because I do not consider myself a politician. I consider myself an elected public official. And I'm the only one, Senator, out of 51 that wears a button that says Robert Jackson City Council. And when I was elected in 2001 and I took office in January 2002, some of my colleagues said, hey, the election is over, man. Take that button off. And I said, it doesn't say elect. It doesn't say vote for. All it says simply is Robert Jackson City Council. And I tell people, I am proud of who I am. I am proud to be a member of the City Council, and I want people to know who I am. And don't you think that that's good? And some of you don't know, but a long time ago, in May of 1993, there was this organization called the Campaign for Fiscal Equity. And we sued the state of New York. And why did we sue them? Because we felt that the state of New York was not guaranteeing New York City enough money in educational funding to give our children the opportunity to get a sound basic education. Not to guarantee them anything, but just to give them that opportunity. And do you know, after 13 years of litigation, going to the highest court on 3 different occasions in this lawsuit, and on the opening day of the trial, walking 12.1 miles from my home in Washington Heights to 60 Center Street to the Supreme Court down at 60 Center Street, and then after walking 150 miles from the Appellate Division at 25th Street and Madison Avenue all the way up to Albany, the highest court, we walked 150 miles. We finally won that lawsuit. And do you know what much we won? Ask me, how much did you win? $16 billion for the children of New York City. So when someone tells you that you can't make it, that you can't succeed, that you will never be what you want to be, you stand up and put your chest out and put your shoulders back and you tell them what Barack Obama said. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And you say it loud and clear with conviction, knowing that you can succeed. Because I tell you, as someone that grew up in a family of 9, I tell you we grew up on welfare, right? Only 2 of us graduated from college. My oldest brother and myself. And he has 5 children, and I have 3. And out of the 8 children out of total, of the 2 men in my family that graduated from college, 7 out of 8 of them children have graduated from college. And 1 did not, but he had the opportunity to go. And so you're given the opportunity. You have to be able to work hard and succeed. But I give that example because I say to all of you that education is the key to uplift all people. And it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Latino, Asian, green, or blue. Doesn't matter from what part of the globe you're from. Education is the key. And so I tell you, never give up. And always be willing to work hard. Let me give you an example. When I arrived about 45 minutes ago, and I approached the outside, and there was a line outside with a table. And the line came through the little vestibule right there, and even inside in here. And so I said to some of the young people, why don't you help out? Ask to help, work the table. And so one person started to give me an answer like, well, I don't think, Papa. I said, no. You're not thinking positive. You go and ask them if they need help. And then she went and asked them. And so she sat down to help. And I went on the line and said, can somebody else help? This other young lady raised her hand, and she helped. And then there was only 4 chairs with 4 individuals sitting. And so this other young lady said, oh, I want to help too. I said, okay, good. And they said, well, there's only 4 chairs. I said, okay, let's get a chair. I came in here and got a chair at the end, and there were 5 people out there helping. And you know one thing? That line went down in 10 minutes. You agree or disagree? And some of you know that, right? So, my message to the young people, don't stand back. Step forward. Help out. People will see that you are a leader. Let me give you a message I used to tell my children when they were in school. Sadia, Asmahan, Sumaya, those are our 3 daughters. I said, when you're in class, if you know the answer, raise your hand. Let the teacher know that you know the answer, that you're willing to respond to the question that she's put forward or he's put forward. If you think you know the answer, what do you think I tell them? Raise your hand. Because if you get it right, that's good. If you get it wrong, or you try, they know that you got an A for what? Effort. Right or wrong? Okay. So sometimes, I tell this to young people. That's how you learn, by engaging in this particular process. About 5 years ago, I said to myself, I talk to myself all the time, right? You know that? Okay. How many of you talk to yourself? Raise your hand. I do. I talk to myself. And let me tell you what I said to myself I wanted to do for myself. I said within 3 years, I wanted to achieve 2 things. Some of you may have heard this before. Senator, you may have heard this. I said, 1, I want to run a New York City Marathon. Because I was not running, and I've never run a New York City Marathon. And I said, 2, I wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, East Africa. It's the highest freestanding mountain in the entire world. It's the highest mountain in all of Africa. It's 19,340 feet. And when you reach the top in January, it's about 8 degrees. That's how cold it is. So, I said, why did I want to do that, Kilimanjaro? Because of global warming, the ice glacier is melting. And maybe in 10 years, there will not be any ice glacier on Mount Kilimanjaro. And my wife is from Tanzania, so we went home, bottom line. So, And that was in 2007. So I trained for 5 months, and I ran the New York City Marathon. First time ever in 2007. If you don't believe me, go on the website and look up Robert Jackson from New York City. You'll see it. 3 hours and 38 minutes. First time ever at age 57. So I ran the New York City Marathon. I said, you know, Dr. Sat, I said, I just can't run one. So I said, let me run again in 2008. And I ran again in 2008. And I tore a calf muscle. And I stopped at the 18-mile mark where my family was waiting to see me. And I gave them hugs and everything like that. They said, okay, go Dad, go Dad. And I said, I'm tired. I hurt myself. And so I started to run again. And then I stopped and walked about 6 times before I finished the marathon. When you run more marathons, you learn from everyone you do. You know that, right? And one thing I learned from running that marathon, if you ever want to finish, if you're going to ever run a marathon, don't stop and walk for a long time. Because what happens after 2 or 3 hours, your muscles tighten up. And when you start to run again, you can't do it. But I finished after stopping and walking 6 times in 4 hours and 15 minutes. And that's still good considering that I had a torn calf muscle and I stopped and walked about 6 times. And then I ran again in 2009. But at that time, Senator, I was running for re-election. Now, you know what happens when you run for re-election. That means you're out there campaigning continuously, and the last 2 weeks before the election, you're at subway stops at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're up to 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and I tell people when they say, I'm going to run for office, and I say to them, good. Are you ready to lose 20 pounds? Because if you're going to really run, Michael, you're going to lose 20 pounds. So, when I was running the marathon, my legs started to cramp up on me. Basically, my legs were not strong enough. So I took some salt tablets and I slowed down. And I said to myself, I want to finish in under 4 minutes. And Dr. Sat, I finished in 3 hours and 58 minutes. I did not finish Kilimanjaro within 3 years. It took me 4.5 years. My wife and I, we climbed Kilimanjaro and asked me, did I make it to the top?
Did you make it to the top?
I did not, unfortunately. I know, when I said that, people laugh. And it is somewhat funny in some respects. But I didn't make it to the top. I made it to 18,000 feet. But you know one thing? This is what I tell young people. And parents, you know when they do it. We tell them to do what? Try your best. That's all we can ask you to do, is try your best. And young people, when you say you've tried your best, you know who knows if you tried your best? Your parents know. The guardians that are around you all the time, they know if you tried your best. And you know in your heart and your mind if you tried the best. Isn't that right, Senator? That's the type of message that we try to give you. Dr. Sat talked about showing these young people up here that are going to college. And we want you to all go to the best colleges that you can. But is everyone going to Harvard? No. Everyone going to Yale? No. But people are going to SUNY New Paltz, SUNY Binghamton, and they are succeeding. You saw this young man, one of them up here, he went to SUNY Binghamton, which is a very good school in the state university system. And now he's going to Howard University Medical School. So you don't necessarily have to go to the top, but you can achieve high. But knowing if you stay focused, you will reach your goals and objectives. And finally, when you become rich and famous, give back. Give back to your community. Give back to Dr. Sat in this program 12 years in a row. He's been struggling to make it successful, to give opportunity to young people like you. One of the things that I do is I give blood. And as you know, when I've traveled to Tanzania, which is a malaria-infested area, you can't give blood for a year. So now I can give blood because I last went to Tanzania in January of 2009. I've given platelets. And I asked someone in the medical field, who needs platelets? Somebody tell me? Everyone. But I mean, if you are a burn victim or a cancer victim, you need platelets. I thought that I signed the back of my driver's license to be an organ donor if I'm brain dead. But somebody told me that if you do that, that you look on the back of your driver's license, what is there? A red star indicating that you are registered with DMV, that if you're brain dead, that they can use your organs to help someone else live. So think about those positive things, what you can do to help your fellow human being. Because you know, all of you in here are brothers and sisters. And it doesn't matter whether you're from China, from Tanzania, or from Bosnia, or from Hawaii or United States. We're all brothers and sisters, because if you look at us biologically, what are we, 99% of the same makeup. Is that correct, doctor? So, never give up. Be leaders in your field. And never forget where you came from. And that's what life is about. Working together, we will be able to achieve all of those things that people say that we cannot achieve. And I was listening to a program, I think it was on the Good Mornings program on Sunday mornings. Who's that at 9 o'clock on CBS? Charles Osgood. I was just trying to give a lead to see if somebody knew the answer. And they were talking about malaria. And you know, I did not know, and I learned something new that day. What is the CDC? Somebody tell me what that is. The Center for what? And where's it at? Atlanta, Georgia. Do you know how that started? I think that started, I believe that they said on a TV program, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, 1939. And you know what was started to try to do? They tried to eliminate malaria. That's how it started. Did you know that? Well, now you do. So if you don't believe me, go and look it up. Everyone knows how to use a computer and do research. But so, Dr. Sat, let me thank you for inviting me. Young people, stay engaged. As Dr. Sat said, network. Never be afraid to stick your hand out and say hello to someone else. And say what your name is and where you're from and what you're trying to do. So people know who you are and what you're trying to achieve. So I say to you in several languages, gracias, which is what? Asante sana, in Swahili.